sometimes people do not feel heard. And
Mhm.
when they don't feel heard, um, resentment happens and they'll change, regardless if that's the proper way of changing or not.
Hey everyone, let's start healing. I'm Adrienne Murchison, and welcome to the Let's Start Healing podcast. We have more in common than we think, and what we have in common can change the world. A thought came to me right before I came to you just now, and that was, am I willing to do things differently? And I feel as though this can apply to all of us when it comes to where we are right now in our world and in our country. Are we willing to do things differently, as in for the better? Are we willing to have more compassion? Are we willing to think of people other than ourselves? And the reason that that came to me is because I can be a little stubborn sometimes. I can be a little hard headed. And this does not have to do with any of my loved ones who might be listening to this or watching this. And they might be like, you think? And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how I need to put a little sticker up on my screen that says hit record, because often it doesn't happen as often as it used to, but often I will start talking to you and I have not hit record. And so, am I willing to do things differently and put that reminder up there instead of thinking that, oh, I'm going to remember? Oh, I'm going to remember. I had another incident the other day where I thought I locked myself out of the house. And I have done that quite a few times over the years. And there's been different points in time that friends have had keys, but that's because I've been going out of town or something like that. And I really have to have a friend keep a key. And finally, my friend has my key, has an extra key. Because when I go out the house all the time, I'm looking to make sure I am trying to be mindful. Do I have my key in my hand? I'm looking at my key in my hand because I know it's possible for me to lock myself out. And the question is, am I willing to do things differently and give my key to a friend, my extra key to a friend to hold for me in case something happens? Are we willing to do things differently instead of being set in our usual ways? Are we willing to do things differently? So, my conversation today is with a wonderful, wonderful human spirit, soul, Lador Milteer. And Lador has been on this podcast before, around episode 103, something like that. I'm going to put a link in the description. And I really, really want you to listen to this episode if you have not listened to it or watched it before. She is just a gem of a person. And this conversation today is the two of us. It's not a long conversation, and we're just discussing the uh, decompression, our respective decompression around the election and the election season and the outcome. And she's a very wise person, and she's also fatigued because she's very active um, in some ways politically, and she has a family. You know, she's married with two kids who have active lives, and she is pulled in different directions and very much an advocate for her community. And so she's exhausted after this election season, in addition to having her profession, in which she is a health care, she's a health communications specialist. And she is very good when it comes to communication and really having empathy and thinking about other people. So I believe that this is a time for humanity. This is a time for us to think about, as I said, people other than ourselves, people who don't necessarily look like us. As we think about our own well being in our own community, it's a time for us to think about others. And it's interesting. My spirituality teaches me that God, when I want something or we want something, that what I'm given is opportunities to practice that thing that I want. So I've talked about in the past self-love, how that has been a lifelong journey for me to get to where I am now in a place of strong self-love. So in me along the journey, and still now I'll have these opportunities, I'll be presented with opportunities to exercise self-love. And so, if this is a time of humanity, and it's something that I know uh, so many of us uh, want and hope and pray for, a higher sense of humanity among all of us, well, perhaps this is a time where we are given opportunities to exercise humanity among each other. And this time of year, I'm actually coming to you the week before or the week of Thanksgiving. And yesterday, I have this photo of Thanksgiving weekend years ago in Virginia when my family, my immediate family, was there for my grandfather's funeral. And it's a photo and it's dated November 23rd, 1984. So November 23rd was yesterday for me, when it comes to this recording. And in the photo is me and my dad and one of my brothers and my niece who was an infant. Uh, I believe she's in the photo. And I'm thinking about this day. So it would have been 40 years ago yesterday. And I think about that day because I remember asking my dad that evening when that photo was taken. I remember saying to him that I wanted a gun. I lived in Virginia. My parents lived in Buffalo. I lived in Atlanta. My parents lived in Buffalo, and the family was in Virginia for this holiday and my grandfather's funeral. So I asked my dad, can I have a gun? And I'm not expecting him to say yes. And he had uh, a few guns because he was a police detective. And, I grew up around guns. He had a gun, whether he was on duty or off duty. If he left the house, he had his gun. So, can I have a gun? And he says, yeah, as long as you know that if you have a gun, you're likely to use it. And for somebody like me, that was the perfect thing to say because I was instantly at a pause. And I just said, never mind, because I don't want to have to use a gun. I do not want to have to use a gun. And that was that. And I'm thinking, I don't want to hurt anybody else. I'm thinking about humanity. At the same time, though, within a few years before that, I was home during the summer and it was late at night. It was just me and my dad. My mom was in Canada, working and living in Canada at the time. And it was just me and my dad. I'm on the phone. It's about 3 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. I'm talking to my best friend. We used to talk all night, hours and hours on the phone. I'm in the family room. My father's asleep. and it had been raining, but it had stopped. And I turn and look because she and I were talking about scary movies or something like that. And I turn and look at the door because I had heard something. And the next to the door, we had these windows that you couldn't see clearly through. They were kind of blurred. And I see a figure outside because the light's on outside, and I see this figure outside, and I walk up. I mean, I don't walk up. I get up and I start screaming, and I run upstairs, and I'm like, "Dad, Dad, Dad!" And he's like, "What?" And, he jumps up, and he's got on his boxer short underwear, and he's like, "What?" And I said, "Somebody's outside! Somebody's outside!" And so he grabs his gun and he goes outside, and I stay upstairs, okay? And he the windows are open, it's summertime, and I hear this gunshot. And I'm like, he got him. He killed him, and I am like satisfied, gratified that my father has gotten this person. Okay. And he comes back inside. I'm at the top of the steps, just kind of looking out. And so he says, there was nobody out there. And I said, but I heard a shot. And he said, that was thunder. So I'm like, all right, okay. I know I saw something. I know I saw somebody. I know what it looks like when it's nighttime and somebody walks up to our door and we look out, and you're on the couch and you see the blurred panes. I know what a body looks like that's in front of the door. Okay. But he said nobody was out there. So I said, okay. The next morning, he and I are going to get in the car to leave. And he's trying to show me that there was nobody out there because there's no footprints on the grass. But there were no footprints of his either. But that didn't even register for me. I was just like, okay, you know. And so it was only my father's been gone. He actually passed a couple of months after that Thanksgiving that I mentioned. And so he's been gone a long time. And it was only a year or two ago that I was talking to my nephew, who's like my father 2.0. And he was just a baby at this time, when this incident happened. And I said, I just realized that there was somebody out there. And he just said that. And he did shoot at them. And so he said, of course there was somebody out there. Of course he shot at them. And I thought that was really something. But and actually I do remember that there was somebody who lived down the street. It was a family that lived way up the street at the corner, and their adult son had some mental challenges. And sometimes he would wander to our house and just be standing outside the door. But he would do that in the daytime. He didn't do that. I never knew of that happening at nighttime. But I'm saying that to say that we all want to protect ourselves. We want to be protected. We want to be safe. And when we think about this world, sometimes this country, we think about our well-being and what's a threat to that. And as we think about that, let us also remember that, we do have more in common than we think. And just because someone doesn't look like us, or we may think somebody's trying to harm us, there's a story behind that, and you know, I'm not saying anything more than what I'm saying. Take what I'm saying at face value. And that is only that I believe it's a time for us to not have our heads in the sand, to only care about our own tribe. I think it's a time for us to care beyond our tribe. It's a time for humanity. And as I said in a previous episode, it's a time for us to talk to each other. It's a time for communication. And uh, we don't have to agree, but we can try to understand each other and try to see each other as people who want the same things. You know, we have families that we care about. We have similar desires. We have similar hopes, similar dreams, and it doesn't mean that if my dream comes true, your that means your dream cannot come true. All of our dreams can come true. If I win, it doesn't mean that you have to lose. If you win, it doesn't mean that I have to lose. We can all win. We can all win. It is a time for humanity. It's a call for humanity where we are right now. It's a call for humanity. So let's get to Lador Milteer. I'm so grateful that she's here and that she was able to take a time out and chat with me for a few minutes. Let's meet her. Let's get started and let's start healing. Welcome, Lador.
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
I am fine. I'm fine. You are a busy woman, and so I'm grateful that you were able to take the time.
Thank you. I'm just so happy to be with you, to chat with you, to feel up your energy, soak it all in.
Oh,
Thanks
girl.
for thanks for
It,
that.
you have a Grand Marshal banner behind you. What were you doing, Lador?
I was the Atlanta Caribbean Carnival that we do every year. I was the Grand Marshal,
Oh
2024 Grand Marshal.
yes,
So
yes,
I was
yes.
the leader of the parade. I was honored. It was amazing. The community, the love, and oh my goodness, I have never seen a carnival, a parade actually that big. It went on for miles, and it
Wow.
was beautiful from all parts of Africa and all the Caribbean, the
Oh,
whole West Indies. It was the food, the music, the colors, the feathers, the costumes, the
ah,
love.
beautiful,
Um,
beautiful.
it's a whole day, night, and early morning affair. It's not for the weak. That sun is no joke. It is, getting in the floats. You gotta hold on, but then you're partying and dancing and you're celebrating at the same time. So I mean, it was an honor to be chosen to represent the people.
Wow.
I don't I mean, and I say it all the time. I've done a lot of things, but that one holds a special magical place for me. That event.
I could tell. I could tell at the time. And I want to say something, you are so busy. All right. You're juggling so many things. And I want you to be able to speak to what you all that you juggle, outside of family. You're politically active, in a way. I don't think I'm overstating that. And you juggle a lot. And I appreciate how mindful you are, about people. And this is an example, me asking you to be on here. This is typical of you, and you agreeing to do it. You, as much as you're doing, you could, somebody else would forget the time, or there's just so many things that you juggle, but you're still mindful of commitments, or saying yes or saying no, and following up. And I just appreciate that about you.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Lador, what is today like for you? Because there's a lot going on.
Never a dull moment. It's a lot's going on. A lot of people got a lot of things. going on. It is hectic times.
How do you stay connected to your spirituality within you? Because I remember the last time that we talked, you said sometimes you just have to sit in the car,
Yeah.
and take time to just
Hmm.
breathe. How do you take that
Hmm.
time, now to just be still and be grounded?
I'm still work in progress with this. So it takes a lot of mindfulness, intent. Like you have to intentionally, and you have to plan, and it doesn't come easy to me. So I have alarms going off on my phone. One of them said breathe, and I just had to, oh.
Mm,
So yeah, hey, listen, you do it the way you do it, right? It
yeah,
doesn't have to look pretty all the time. It doesn't have to be you don't have to be empowered necessarily to say that you got this under control. I don't. I still need the reminders and the alerts
yeah,
and
yeah.
the and the clock to kind of tick ting and bring me to
Hmm.
take a moment, just stop for a second and breathe. Um so it's I'm work in progress, and I make sure I say that to people so that they, if they assumed it looks easily, even though I don't think this is, this doesn't look too easy, but if anyone thinks this looks easy, I want to let you know it doesn't. It's not. It does. It's not, and it takes all hands on deck and everything. Use technology. Use your friends. Get
Hmm.
yourself held accountable, and make sure that you tune in to yourself.
And I know that you're intuitive, and I know that intuition comes from God.
Yeah.
To me, I know that's God talking to us.
Mhm.
And so, how do you take that time? How does that happen? Like how, when are you able to be still and not just breathe and hear God talking to you?
I think how how is interesting because you can choose to do it on your own and try to make an effort, or sometimes it just happens that you have to. And I try to keep that in mind all the time, that I don't want to be to the point that I have to. I want to
Hmm.
I don't want to be I want to be able to do it without necessarily have feel like I have to do it. I think that that comes with sometimes traumatic experiences and sadness and things like that. So I just try to kind of be a little proactive, just a little bit,
Yeah.
and and work it and say, hey, this is going to be a busy week, and while I schedule everything, I'm going to schedule time for myself.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm going to respect my time for myself. And I am not going to fill the calendar up with everyone else's needs and not fill the calendar up with the needs in which I need to be able to operate in.
Right.
So I think that it takes a lot for someone who I can't, I kind of, I give and go.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I feed off of that type of energy, and that can be dangerous if it is that if you don't take
Hmm.
breaks.
Hmm.
You'll give it all. You'll go and not stop, and no one can operate consistently like that. So yeah, so I have to schedule it. That's, I think, my how is actually scheduling it, seeing it in my calendar.
Yeah.
And to say that, it doesn't sound sexy, right? It's not sexy to be like, I gotta put a calendar, put it in my calendar, but it's the means, and it works
Yeah.
because I listen, I follow my schedule to a certain extent, and I put that in my schedule.
Yeah. And how do you manage being an empath? Because giving what you just said, all of that is good, but still, you have a huge heart and you could be in a moment with someone and it could be a lot that they're dealing with that you
Mhm,
you care. So
mhm.
how do you manage that?
Yeah, I'll protect my space. And I will give until I feel that at that moment I can't give anymore. So I will then um, stop.
Mhm.
And know where I can. I have to, right. So I'll know, because if I don't and I keep on, it doesn't, at the end of the day, it won't help you, it won't help me. And tomorrow I'm thinking about what's making me so, why is my heart so heavy? And
Yeah.
I'm searching in my mind to figure out what bothered me, or what did I see or hear, or what's on my
Mhm.
heart. And then I realize, oh, it was yesterday.
It was
It
yesterday.
was yesterday. When I didn't decide to stop. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
enjoy life in abundance. I do. I enjoy a cocktail. I enjoy wine. I enjoy food, but I'm not going to go crazy with
Yeah.
either of those things.
Right.
I'm not. I'm going to be able to um have some self really lean in and not go crazy.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. I'll take some, and then I'll say, okay, I'm no longer going to self-indulge in this moment, and I know my limits to this. I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. That can be hard. That can be hard, but it does require a decision. Just just have to do it.
You
W
have to. It's harder the other way, honestly.
Yeah.
So, you
Great.
know, we've all been to college. We've all know when you do too much,
Mhm.
and we know the following morning how it is. And no one
Yeah.
wants that. It's not healthy. It's not the way that you're
Yeah.
supposed to operate. You can't run yourself into the ground. And
Right.
I can't help anyone or myself or my family if I do. Um, so, I'll take this hard over that hard.
Yeah. What do you think God is calling you to do, for
Hmm.
other people?
Goodness, Adrian, I think I'm still figuring that out. Um,
Because
every
you do
time you think you get to a point of thinking, it changes right in front of your face. It changes right in front of my face. As soon as I get to the point, I was like, wait a second, oh, there's more. So yeah, I think I'm still on the journey, and I don't know fully. I
Mhm.
know it's people. I know I love people. Um, I love relationships. I'm fascinated by the way in which we think and operate, and our ability to be flexible and change. And so I know it's people, but I'm
Yeah.
figuring out the rest on the journey, on the ride.
Well, so, uh, the election outcome was for me, it was really hard. I did a whole podcast about it. It was I'm better. I'm better. In fact, when I I saw you, we have a mutual friend. We were at her event, and I got
Mhm.
into a conversation with somebody who voted for um, Trump, and we, had an exchange, and I couldn't have done that a few days earlier.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Ah, look at me." So, and one of the things that I am trying to call for is that maybe it's a time that we start trying to um, understand each other's needs when it comes to our political beliefs, like the needs underneath the beliefs. And maybe that way we can understand each other and make some headway in what we think is odd or doesn't make sense or crazy or we just don't understand. Because maybe the people who supported him think that we're off our rockers. So, what do you think of that? I mean, what do you think is called for right now? And before you even tell me that, how were you uh, that Tuesday night and the next
Um,
day?
I was not surprised. Um, I I don't know. I feel like I always kind of have my I'm so grassroots sometimes, and I have my pulse on listening. That's what I do for, my 9 to 5. I break down communication. So it's plain language. And so I read the tea leaves with this type of situation. I knew pretty much how this was going to turn out. Um, And it's hard to, it's hard to, everyone's not necessarily locked in and tuned in at all throughout the year. They usually have a few days, maybe the week of the
Mhm.
election, to kind of, yeah, they're bombarded by ads and commercials and texts and emails, but um, it takes time to actually be able to. You can't communicate if you're not communicating, and if people don't understand, you're not
Mhm.
communicating. So, I to answer your question, that night, I honestly, I saw, I wasn't too surprised that we were going to have this outcome.
Mm. I had texted a friend and that evening, two friends that evening, a couple, and I said, it was like 6 o'clock, and I was already nervous, and they didn't have the TV on. I think they were watching a movie,
Hmm.
and I said, "What do you think? How are you feeling?" And so he said, "Hopeful, but not optimistic."
Yeah,
And I
that's a
was
good.
just
That's
like,
a good
"What?"
one.
You know?
That's a
Yeah,
good one.
yeah. So you just was it emotional for you even though you weren't surprised? How did you feel?
Yeah, I think it definitely is emotional. In the sense of feeling things, it's emotional. Definitely not surprised, but yeah, you go through this as a roller coaster ride, and then you have your ups, you have your downs, you have turns, you kind of accept the entire ride.
Yeah,
Especially when you're on it, you don't have a choice. But you kind of you understand it, and I feel like we have a ways to go on so many different levels. Um, and so I did, there is emotion there. Even if it is, your certain team, though. If I feel as if that I I get a chance to see how people communicate. And I get a chance to see the ways and the different thinking and the questions. And honestly, because I'm really fascinated by people, a lot of it is actually just being able to do to me, the biggest part of communication, listening. It's the hardest part, but it's the biggest part.
absolutely.
Um, and I don't, and I think that we're going to have to learn amongst a lot of things, but listening is one of them. And not to say that there weren't certain factors that no matter how much you listen, there's going to be racism, there's going to be misogyny, there's going to be, I mean, there's always
Yeah,
those type of things thrown in. Um, but I do believe that communication was also one of the factors in
yeah.
this election.
And so when you say that, do you mean as in um, a lack of communication on the part of getting a message out on the part of Democrats, or do you mean listening to the needs of um, the people who voted the way that they did that resulted in the outcome? You know,
Oh,
the
both,
everyday person.
both. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Both.
I was watching a clip of, I almost sent it to you, but I didn't have a chance because I just saw it this morning. It was a clip of AOC on Joy Reid,
Oh, okay.
and she wanted to talk to voters. I think she did
Mm-hmm.
a call out on social media. Did you see
Mm-hmm.
this?
No, I didn't
Because
see it. But now,
it,
as soon as I get off, right now, I have to see it. But yeah, so tell me, how was it? I love
well,
AOC. Like, she's, listen.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love Joy Reid too, so I'm sure this is great.
Exactly. Exactly. And so she wanted to know how in her district
Hmm.
people voted for her
But not
and but they voted for Trump as well, and she
right.
wanted to know why.
Yeah,
And basically from what I understand, they might not have been even paying attention to the campaign because they're trying to get through their day. They're working multiple jobs,
absolutely.
and so they're not really paying attention. And
Right.
then if they were paying attention, what they heard was he's speaking to you,
Yeah.
and they keep bringing up that ad.
Yeah.
the trans ad,
Yeah.
and that
She's speaking to
uh,
them. He's
at the
speaking to
at
you.
they
Mhm.
them,
Mhm.
Kamala, they them, Trump,
Mhm.
you,
You. Mhm.
and so that's what they're hearing.
Mhm.
And so I just find it something, I don't know. It's hard for me. It's hard for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they did that the same, there's a lot of people who voted against trying to bring abortions back to the state. Like so, but then how do you vote for Trump and you voted against you
Right.
it's how
It's
is
a
this happening?
contradiction
How do you right.
against your own interests.
So yeah, I think that like I said before, it's not the only factors. There's you have other factors, and I'm not diluting those. I'm not, with race and with sexism and all the other stuff. But I am saying that communication, though, honestly, I think that that plays a role in this. And whether it's, to the people from a campaign, the way in which a campaign either which way, we have to have it, we can't speak above people's head who's not invested every single day. They're not considered a political junkie like we are, right?
Yeah.
They got things going on in their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have, other things happening. And that's our job. Our job is to make sure that there's an understanding, there's a breakdown to what it is that we're saying. We don't attack the, uh, you know, voters by saying you don't understand. That's our
Yeah.
problem. That's our
Yeah.
problem. So yeah, no, it's really difficult, and I'm interested in seeing how this year, this upcoming year, I'm interested in sitting back and kind of seeing how things are going to unfold here because it's a lot going on.
Because
A lot of
okay.
changes happening.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
things that are really directly um, going to impact us on these
Yeah.
type. I mean, with the decisions or consequences, but we shall see.
Yes. And my thing is also, I think it's important that we care about each other. So, like, I understand what you're saying, like, just in terms of like, we can't talk above people, or, the leaders cannot talk above people. But I also think that just in our daily lives, it's important that I care about what you're experiencing and you care about what I experience. And I'm not just in my silo and you're in your silo.
Hmm.
I think that, that's how the world changes
Right.
to me, because the world to me is about to change as a result of the choice
Absolutely.
that people made.
Hmm.
So if we
Some
care about
changes is
each
going to take
other,
a long time to unchange. Things are being
exactly.
put in place that it's going to take a while to be able to,
Right.
absolutely.
Right. So I think that, I think just talking about our political beliefs and why,
Hmm.
among our friends. I have friends that, I have not talked about this with because
Right.
I don't think they want to talk about it, you
Right. And it's
know?
so it's not polite. Remember when they used to say don't talk religion, don't talk politics? It's just
Mhm.
not conversations that are polite.
But it's like
We
an
don't
elephant.
conversate. We don't conversate, right? Once again, I don't understand. We those are conversations, and we're gonna have to get to a point where we can not consider that not being polite.
Yeah.
I don't that's it sounds harsh maybe, but it's the truth. I think us living like that has caused us to not understand each other and have honest, candid conversations because it's
Yeah.
not polite.
And a part of, this platform for me, spirituality is everything to me. And I feel like I have to show up in the world. Like, I'm
Right.
called to show up and have some personal accountability. And,
Hmm.
I can only walk through the world, with God, my personal relationship with God. Because if I walk through the world just me as a human being and nothing else, it's like I might disintegrate. I
Right.
mean, it just not a good
Right.
scene. Not a good
Right.
scene. So I have to care about other people. I mean, that's the way that I'm built. That's the way, God made me. But I
Mhm.
just feel like, what are we doing?
Mhm.
And I think that, um, I mean, I was talking to myself earlier, in my
I
head
love
earlier
that. I
today.
love that. I was
What I
talking to
mean,
myself earlier. That's I do all the time.
yes, yes, because I just feel like, a part of me feels like I'm being too hard on people in my mind, but I just want to shake people. And it's not that you make the choice that I made,
Right.
but care, wake up, be aware. We have to be aware of what's going on around us, no matter
Yeah.
how busy we are. We have to try to be the best people that we can be
Right.
in whatever way that looks like. And we can't walk around unconscious. We
No,
cannot walk around
absolutely.
unconscious.
Right. We have a responsibility to engage and understand and relate. And I think that um when people said that their eggs are too expensive, and we lean into that conversation, it's like, okay, well now your eggs are gonna, I think they were also saying more.
Mhm.
Um, I think that they were saying it's cost of living is too much. I'm working and I can't get through. And I get all that other stuff, but all that other stuff doesn't directly um, hit as hard, me and my family. Um, and I'm willing to. Uh, I need a break, and I'm willing to see if that can get done under someone else. And this person is talking to me and asking me questions like, "Was I better 4 years ago?" And I remember I was. Um, and not talking on that, acknowledging on that, but yet we're talking about the things though.
Yeah.
um I think there's also resentment. Like I said, I think there's also other things in that we always know exists on top of this to sprinkle that on. But
Yeah.
I definitely feel as if though those are the sprinkles we've outdone, um and beat those things before in the past. So I feel like communication was one of the most important things,
Mhm.
and hearing people out and knowing that um their view, how small we might necessarily think it is, or compared to, or whatever, however we justify everything.
Mhm.
Um, it sometimes people do not feel heard, and
Mhm.
when they don't feel heard, um, resentment happens, and they'll change, regardless if that's the proper way of changing or not.
Mhm. Yeah, I was just about to ask you about resentment, what you meant, and just not being heard. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're 1,000%, correct. I really do. I think you're 1,000% correct. I just I feel sad.
I know.
I
And
feel sad.
social media, which
Yeah.
it plays both ways too. There's a lot of misinformation going around,
Yeah.
and on top of that, so this is an uphill battle. It's doable. This climb, it's doable. We just have to get prepared to um scratch a lot of the way in which what we thought, in the sense of people understanding or knowing, or information that directly um hits back to kitchen table.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
proper outreach.
You're right.
um so, and by all means, I'm telling you, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't think anyone could have done anything better than Kamala in
Mhm.
that amount of time,
Yeah.
under that type of situation, to
Right.
even galvanize and make sure that there's a little bit more, just a little of that hit,
Right.
really hit to excite the base. There was no
Right.
one else, by all means.
Yeah.
um because they would have thrown it. They would have submitted other names. There would
Yes.
have been other people who stood up, but no one even thought they could.
Mhm.
um so yeah. I feel like this is one of those going back to the drawing board situations that's
Yeah,
going to take 4 years to actually be able to 3 years, time.
right. Right. And I do think that in addition to what you just said, that it's somebody said it's not one thing, it was like many things. And
Yeah.
I think that's true. And I think I just want us to have a better world, a better country, than
Mm-hmm.
we have now. So I don't necessarily I am a Democrat, but I don't necessarily feel like, oh, I want the Democrats to come back. I want the world to come back, the country to come back, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I just want us to come back from the extreme place where, we are and we're heading.
Yeah.
So in our final moments, I so appreciate your time. You have an event coming up, and it is around Black women taking
Mm-hmm.
time to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And would you share a little about that and uh, why Black women healing is why there's an accent on that? And because if a person isn't Black, they might feel some kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about unity and listening and understanding, and then we also see a need where Black women uh, need to take some time to decompress
Absolutely.
and reset.
Absolutely. I think that I like to, and this is going to sound, it might sound again, I definitely want to make sure I'm clear with, there was not only Black women, of course, who supported the cause and really, really helped with this campaign, but a lot of people um, eh, with this election, and the stats are out, uh, who voted for Kamala. First, of course, it's Black women. Second, it's Black men. And then we have Latino women, right? And I feel as this right now, this is the hit. This is the hit where we feel that we put so much effort into something, and it's time for us to hit, and accept that, and cherish and rebuild, and worry about just uplifting each other. There was a lot of energy put into that. So I feel that this is who we're targeting for. Um, if it is that, for example, we are speaking about an issue like drowning, and we put out, hey, these are some ways to maybe prevent and raise awareness around these issues and concerns for everyone, and you put something like that out. I think that you might get a few, ears perk up, or few people lean in, but I don't think it's specific. If the issue is mostly Black boys are drowning, I'm going to need that title to be Black boys are drowning. And I'm going to need an initiative. I'm going to need a campaign behind it. I'm going to need it to be specific. When you come into doctor's office and there's something wrong with you, that doctor needs to know where. And it's a specific group that I need, and I feel that I would like to dedicate something like this to. The AACAF, which is the African American Culture and Arts Festival, um, is actually the sponsor for this event. And it's really exciting because it's a place where there's going to be breathing. There's going to be yoga. There's going to be connecting. There's going to be some loving. And I'm not saying that what I am saying is this is the place that I feel as if we need to focus on. I have kids, and I have two. I have a boy, I have a girl. Um, when you have that example where in the Bible, where what was it again, where you have the yeah, I think you probably know exactly what I'm about to say, when you have the shepherd, that one sheep goes wandering off, and the shepherd kind of like goes after that one sheep. You got a whole bunch of sheep over there, but you go after that one.
Kind of
I
like the
think,
prodigal son kind of
yes,
thing.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
feel as if we need to be specific. And I feel as if the people who are right now hurting the most um, need to have this moment.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Um, thank you for saying that. And it's, I just want to comment that it's multi-layered, it's deep, so like we're not a monolith.
Hmm.
So what was important for one Black woman, with this election, with another Black woman, it might be another aspect that was really
Absolutely.
important. And like you said, there might be causes. It might be because it was a woman. And for me also, a part of the pain was that I feel that Black women are the least valued.
Yeah.
And so the idea that a Black woman could be president, was enormous,
Yeah. It
so
was.
yeah, it was enormous. So it's multi-layered, and I appreciate the way that you explained. And is this going to be a program, or is it going to be like you can do yoga, you can go over here and do breathing? Is it going to be like that, or is it
It
going to be like a
is.
program?
Yes, it's going to be a program. And we'll have therapists also on site.
Wow. Hmm.
Um, and and then we'll have a moment to ourselves.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I think that this is something that we need to get used to doing. Not only during um aftermaths like this, but this needs to be a part of our regular.
Absolutely.
It's, we tend to hold sometimes a lot on our own. We are the providers, sometimes we are the emotional support. We have held up this entire parties halfway this election, um and we came out in major numbers fully. So
Hmm.
I think it's time for us to gather ourselves so we can, you know fight another day.
Absolutely, Lador. And it's free. Right?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
I'll put information in the description of this episode. And I just really appreciate you taking the time. People have no idea if they don't know you. If they know you, they know.
Hmm.
You're just a
Hmm.
girl on the run, a woman on the run, on the go,
You're so right.
a
I've always been
husband
a
and
girl
two
on the run.
kids. And yes, you have so much going on. And I know that your community loves you so much and appreciates you so much. I know you know that. I hope you know that.
I do. And I never take it for granted. And I always and I'm blessed. I'm blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do, for all
Mm,
you always do, for your voice, for your energy, for your love, for your friendship. Thank you.
Lador. Thank you for joining us. Like this episode. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really appreciate you joining me and watching and listening to Let's Start Healing. Subscribe. Please share Let's Start Healing with at least one person that you know. Until next time, let's start healing.